What the hell is this? I stared at the bottle of antibiotics sitting on the bathroom sink. Label facing up. Lauren Collins, azithromycin. She was in the shower, humming like nothing was wrong, steam curling out from behind the glass door. I picked up the bottle, turning it over. "Babe," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why do you have meds for chlamydia?" The humming stopped. Lauren's head poked out. Wet hair slicked back, water dripping down her shoulders. Her face twisted into that fake confusion she always wore when she was cornered. "What are you talking about?" she said, wiping her eyes. I held up the bottle. "This." Lauren's eyes flicked to the label, just for a second. I caught the flicker of panic, but she covered it fast. "Oh," she laughed lightly, stepping out of the shower and wrapping herself in a towel. "It's nothing, just a UTI. Doctor prescribed it to be safe." I frowned. "A UTI doesn't get treated with this." She walked up, standing on her toes to kiss me on the cheek. "Babe, you're overthinking again." I stared at her, heart pounding. I hadn't slept with Lauren in over a month. "Who gave this to you?" I asked, stepping back. Lauren's smile faltered. "Jesus, Jake. No one gave me anything." "You're being dramatic." I gripped her wrist before she could grab the bottle. "Tell me the truth, Lauren." She sighed, tugging her arm away. "You're acting insane." But I didn't let it go. I wasn't stupid. That night I barely slept. Lauren curled up next to me, but I kept my back to her, staring at the wall, mind racing. I grabbed her phone after she passed out. Same passcode. She never thought I'd check. Her messages with someone named Eric B. were pinned to the top. I opened the thread. The first thing I saw? A photo of Lauren. Legs spread, biting her lip, lying on her desk at work. "Eric, you taste better in the office than at the hotel." "Lauren, you should have locked the door. Almost got caught." "Eric, maybe I wanted to get caught. Your husband's clueless. Isn't he?" I clenched my jaw, scrolling further. More messages. More pictures. Lauren wasn't even trying to hide it. Eric was her boss, and apparently they'd been sleeping for months. The next morning, Lauren kissed me goodbye like usual, heading off to work. I didn't say a word. I just watched her walk out the door, knowing exactly where she was going. She thought she got away with it, but by tonight she'd regret every second. Lauren didn't know I took the day off. She thought I'd gone to work like always. Kissed me on the cheek, told me she'd be late because of some presentation. I followed her. She wasn't hard to track. Eric's car was parked 2 blocks away from the office. I sat in my truck across the street, watching as Lauren climbed into the passenger seat, her hand already on his thigh before he even shifted gears. Not exactly subtle. I didn't tail them directly, just waited until they stopped at the Ridgewood Inn, a cheap hotel on the outskirts of town. Lauren hopped out, straightening her skirt, giggling like a fucking teenager sneaking around behind her parents' back. Eric didn't even bother looking around. He slapped her ass on the way inside. That's when I knew. This wasn't the first time. I waited 15 minutes before walking in. I wasn't loud, but I wasn't sneaky either. The front desk clerk barely glanced at me when I walked by, too busy watching something on his phone. I climbed the stairs slowly, listening. 3rd floor. Room 314. Lauren's laugh slipped through the door. I leaned against the wall, just listening. Eric's voice was low, but I caught enough. "You're louder than usual today." "Maybe I like the risk," Lauren whispered back. I clenched my fists. I could hear the bed creaking. "Fuck, Lauren. Your husband doesn't fuck you like this. Does he?" Not even close." That did it. I knocked twice. Silence. Then I heard scrambling. Lauren's voice shot through the door. "Shit. Who is it?" I knocked again, harder. "Room service," I said flatly. Eric cursed under his breath. I heard him fumbling with his clothes, the sound of a belt buckle clinking. Lauren opened the door, still buttoning her shirt, hair a mess, cheeks flushed. Her smile dropped the second she saw me. "Jake!" I stepped inside, brushing past her, eyes locking onto Eric. He was still sitting on the edge of the bed, pulling his shoes on. I thought you had a presentation today, I said, voice calm. Lauren looked like she might pass out. I can explain. Eric smirked.
Hey, Mann.
Look. I didn't let him finish. I grabbed the glass of water sitting on the nightstand and threw it at his head. It shattered, glass and water dripping down his face. Eric jumped to his feet, hands up defensively. Fucking relax. Lauren screamed, grabbing my arm. Stop. Jake, stop. I shook her off. I'll stop when he's bleeding. Eric stumbled toward the door, wiping his face, but I wasn't done yet. Get the fuck out of this room before I finish what I started. Eric didn't wait for a second invitation. He bolted, shirt half-tucked, shoes untied. Lauren stood there, breathing hard, eyes wide with panic. Jake, please just listen. I stared at her, at the sweat on her skin, the red marks on her neck. You need to pack your shit when you get home. Her lips parted. Jake, no, we can fix this. It didn't mean anything.
I stepped closer, towering over her.
You gave me an STD, Lauren. Her eyes widened, face pale. What? I tossed the bottle of antibiotics onto the bed. You're not the only one who got tested. Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. Jake, I didn't know. But Eric did, right? She couldn't answer. I walked out without another word. Lauren came home that night, eyes red and swollen, dragging her feet like a dog with its tail between its legs. I was in the kitchen, drinking a beer, watching her from the corner of my eye as she dropped her purse by the door. She didn't say a word, but I knew she was waiting for me to yell. She tiptoed around the house, carefully, like she thought being quiet would make me forget the image of her half-naked, sweating in a cheap motel room. I let her squirm, let her live in that silence, because I wasn't done with her yet. By midnight, she finally caved. Lauren slipped into bed, curling against me under the sheets. Her fingers traced my chest hesitantly, testing the waters. I'm sorry, she whispered, lips brushing my shoulder. I'll fix this. I'll make it up to you. Please, Jake. Her hand slid lower, dipping under the waistband of my boxers. I caught her wrist. Get off me, Lauren. She flinched, pulling her hand back like I burned her. You were smashing with your boss. Then came home and gave me chlamydia. Lauren froze, body stiffening beside me. I turned to face her, staring into her tear-streaked face, watching the guilt slowly dissolve into frustration. It wasn't just him. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. How many times, Lauren? I pressed, voice dropping lower. She shook her head, tears sliding down her cheek. I don't know. I laughed bitterly.
Jesus Christ.
Lauren sat up, tugging at the sheet, her eyes wide with panic. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just, I was lonely, Jake. You're always at work. I cut her off. Don't fucking blame this on me. Her lips trembled, but she didn't deny it. The next morning, she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. I didn't ask where she left it. I didn't care. 2 days later, Lauren's world started to unravel. Eric's wife found out. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who decided to dig through their spouse's phone. I ran into her at the grocery store. She recognized me instantly. Jake, right? I nodded. I saw the texts. Her voice was tight, like she was holding back tears. They've been screwing around for months. I thought you should know. I smiled faintly. I already knew. She blinked, stunned. You knew and didn't say anything? I shrugged. I was waiting for the right time to ruin her. That time came fast. Eric was fired the next week. Lauren? She came home sobbing, clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her together. He's divorcing me, she choked out. Jake, he's leaving his wife. I didn't know she'd found out. I sipped my beer, watching her panic spiral. Maybe he'll take you with him. Her eyes snapped to mine, desperate. I don't want him. I want you. Liar. She wanted whoever could give her attention, and I wasn't playing that game anymore. I smiled coldly. I already packed your bags. Lauren's face crumbled. Jake, please don't do this. I'll fix everything. I'll quit my job. I'll do anything. I stepped closer, leaning down to whisper against her ear. You already did enough. She sobbed harder, but I didn't give a shit. Lauren brought this on herself. Now she'd live with it. Lauren didn't leave right away. Her suitcases sat by the door for 3 days, untouched. She wandered around the house like a ghost, barefoot, eyes swollen, mumbling apologies every time I passed her. I let her rot in that guilt. It wasn't enough. Not even close. On the 4th night, she climbed into bed again. I was already awake, staring at the ceiling, when she slipped under the sheets. Her body pressed against mine, warm and soft, but it felt wrong. Jake, I love you, she whispered, lips trailing along my shoulder. Please, just let me fix this. Her hand slid down my chest, lower. I grabbed her wrist tight. Lauren, stop. She froze. You think you can fuck your way out of this? I said, glaring at her through the dark. Her lip trembled, but she didn't pull away. I'm still your wife, she whispered. I sat up, swinging my legs off the bed.
No, Lauren.
You're just the woman who gave me an STD. The next morning, I shoved her suitcases into the hallway. She stood by the door, arms crossed, face blank. Where am I supposed to go? I didn't answer. I tossed her keys on top of the bags and slammed the door behind her. She was back 2 nights later. This time, she was drunk. I heard the pounding on the door at 2 a.m. Jake, open up. I didn't move. You can't just fucking throw me away like this. Her voice cracked. I made a mistake. You're supposed to forgive me. I stood by the window, watching her slump against the door, mascara streaking down her face. I let her cry until the sun came up. By the end of the week, Lauren's life completely fell apart. She lost her job. Eric ghosted her the second his wife filed for divorce. Lauren called me 7 times that day, leaving voicemails begging to come home. I didn't answer. I was too busy banging her old college roommate. Megan slid into my lap, running her fingers down my chest, pressing her lips to my ear. She's still blowing up my phone, she whispered. Think she knows I'm here? I grinned. I hope so. Lauren wanted to lie, cheat, and crawl into another man's bed. Now, she could watch someone else replace her. Lauren stopped calling after that night. She must have seen Megan's car in the driveway. I left the blinds open on purpose. Megan didn't leave until the next afternoon, wearing one of my shirts and nothing else. She kissed me lazily at the door, smirking as she adjusted her hair. Text me later, she whispered. I watched Lauren's old car parked across the street as Megan slid into hers. Lauren saw everything. I could picture her sitting there, gripping the wheel, grinding her teeth as Megan waved on her way out. Good. Let her choke on it. Lauren showed up that evening. No banging on the door.
No screaming.
Just soft knocks, almost fragile. I opened it to find her standing there, shoulders slumped, a shadow of herself. Her eyes flicked to the empty wine glass on the coffee table behind me, lip trembling. You could have at least waited until I moved out, she muttered, voice hoarse. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. You didn't wait for me, did you? Lauren swallowed, gaze dropping to the floor.
I'm sorry, Jake.
I really am. I stared at her for a long second. I know you are. She exhaled slowly, like she thought I was about to let her in. I didn't. But you still can't come back. Lauren's eyes shot to mine, wide and desperate. I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling, quit my job, fuck. I'll block Eric. Her voice cracked. Please, Jake. Don't let this end like this. I almost felt bad. Almost. It already ended, Lauren. The second you spread your legs for him, it ended. Her face crumbled. I didn't think I'd lose you over this, she whispered. I laughed under my breath, stepping back inside. That was your first mistake. Lauren stood there, blinking through her tears, watching as I slowly shut the door in her face. I waited until I heard her car pull away. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. Lauren brought this on herself. And now, she could live with the wreckage. Thank you for listening the story to the end. Write your thoughts about it in the comments and do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next videos.